the author of the diagram, Sergeant Red, with his ID number 1247. Also, the direction north, so we have some idea of direction. So in this case, as you look at it, to your left would be north, and then to your right, of course, would be south. Up top would be east, and down bottom would be west. Okay, and then we, it's stated it's not to scale. We also designate measuring points, and then when you see these numbers are placards, the yellow, and then we also use cones. You can see cones. There's one out here near the street, and there's two here inside.
In regards to the measuring points, even though that diagram is not to scale, are there specific measurements made as to where each piece of evidence is located?
Yes, there is.
And the measuring points on that diagram, can you please point those out?
Okay, the measuring points, what we do is we try to establish a point that we measure from, because we don't want to measure from multiple points. And we try to choose a spot that is somewhat fixed. So, we don't want to measure from a chair or a table that can be moved easily. So we usually choose a permanent fixture like a wall, or on the street we choose a curb or a fire hydrant, something that's a relative that we come back weeks or months. There's a high chance that it'll still be there. And in this case, we have a baseline wall, okay? And we also have the baseline origin point. And what that is to locate an object, you need basically two measurements from two different, from an object, its distance like would be from the wall and the distance from a certain point. If I tell you it's 6 feet from the wall and you only have a baseline, is it 6 feet here, 6 feet there, 6 feet there? In this case, your point of origin right here would then tell you it's 6 feet from the wall and 8 feet from the original point. So here's going to be basically on an XY graph. This is going to be 0 for X and 0 for Y.
And is there also a point A and point B that is used for measurements?
Yes. So we would go from the point of origination and then the base line wall. So A would be always a consistent measurement of how far.
I'm sorry, Greg, I don't mean to confuse you, but in regards to the front door, are there also a point A and a point B that are used for measurement purposes as well as a baseline wall?
Again, when you put down, you don't want to use multiple points from a wall, but sometimes you have to because the distances are obstructions.
You can see. At this time, I'm going to hand you what's been marked for identification purposes. It states Exhibit 40, and ask you if you're able to identify that exhibit.
Okay, these are going to be measurements on key.
And besides measurements, what other type of items are contained in that exhibit?
It tells you what items are, and then with the measurements, if you ask me to refer to the chart, well, how far was in this instance, the furthest out there in front of the entrance between the two cars, if you ask me the placard number 1, it was a shell casing, and it's approximately 34 feet from that front entrance from the one side of the door, and 35 or 35 3 inches from the other side.
And that's an example, and there's a total of approximately 26 items listed here with measurements.
That's correct.
I'm going to put this on the occupant's benefit of the jury. fair to say that State's Exhibit 40 is to be used in connection with the diagram sketch State's Exhibit 5?
Yes, absolutely.
And there's the first column called placards. What are placards?
Okay, in this diagram you see the yellow squares with numbers, and if you look at the key it says CSU placards. And if you look at the red car and the black car, you see these placards, and they're numbered inside the square, 1 on the out, well, 1 through 8 on the outside. But then we go to the key, and you say, well, what's number 1? We look at the key, and it says shell casing, and it tells you in this case points A and B from the entrance point of the door. That's separate. We're not using the baseline inside because you basically have evidence outside and you don't want to keep running back into and winding around to use it. So we do the door frames A and B. So if you went to the location and what we call triangulation, measurements from each side of the door, right, in the form of a triangle, you can locate, or if you gave me placard 1 and said where was it, if I took those measurements I could place it back to where placard 1 was.
And so State's Exhibit 40 then goes through all these items that were collected and then the various distances based upon the sketch. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Now, in regards to your procedures on this evening and every evening, in utilizing these placards, when you go through the scene, do you immediately put down these placards, or take us through the process of how the placards are utilized?
Okay, for one, the placards are also used in conjunction with photos. You'll see some photos and you'll see these placard numbers. So I show you a photo, you're just like, where is this in this diagram? So the fact that we use photos requires us also to make that when we do the layout, you can actually see them in the photos. So if I put a placard down, like in the corner, that it might not be, especially like in this instance, there are cars that may obstruct the view of some of the placards. An ideal placement that we took one overall photograph, you could see, in this case on the outside, 1 through 8. So you can see all the placards. So if I gave you the picture, you could see the relative placement of each piece of evidence in the photo. That's not always possible, but when we do the walkthrough and we assess how we want to place the placards for photographic reasons, we also would like to retain a numerical order. So you're not looking at a picture and seeing 1, 15, 32. We want to make it, if at all possible, because sometimes evidence, after you place your placards, you come upon a piece of evidence that you was either overlooked or wasn't there, and then you have to, I mean, if you put out 32 placards now, do you shuffle 32 placards? You don't. So you try your best to locate everything so you can follow it visually, and when you photograph it, you have to bear in mind whether to include as many placards in their relative position to each other.
And in regards to the photographs then, are the items that are photographed, potential evidence, are those items touched or moved in any way prior to the photographs?
All I can testify to is when I arrive on scene, I do not move them, I do not touch them, I try to get the photographs first. In the instance of, in this case where we took multiple blood samples, we don't sample until we photograph it in the position, then we take the sample when we're done.
So you don't touch them, but prior to you getting there, whether another officer or patron has in any way moved an item, you can't answer to that.
I can't testify to what happened before I was there.
In regards to photographing, do you also videotape the scene?
That's correct. We try to videotape the scene also.
And is that also done before you or any member of the crime scene unit moves or alters any evidence?
Yes, same principle.
And was that done in this case?
Yes.
May I hand you State's Exhibit 39? Ask if you're able to identify that.
Okay, this is a crime scene video.
And this, have you had an opportunity to see the crime scene video from the evening or the early morning hours of November 16th at Papa Don's Pub?
Yes, I have.
And is there, I guess at the beginning of the video, is there a minor issue?
In this video, we use, just like the homeowners would use, a video camera. And they're very tiny buttons on these cameras. And if your finger, you could probably cover 4 or 5 buttons with your fingertip. And in this case, a bar mode, referring to the pattern. If you have a home video camera, like phase out, or there's different features that they do for the homeowner that want to develop video or produce the video. And in this case, the bar mode was activated only in the parking lot while filming license plates off the vehicles.
And that's kind of like a special effects feature you might have on a video camera?
That's correct. These cameras have multiple buttons. It's kind of hard to, also the temperature of 30 degrees, your fingertips aren't as sensitive when you're out in the cold temperature. When you try to press the start button, you might hit 2 or 3 buttons at the time.
Were you actually the individual doing the videotaping?
I was actually did the videotaping at the scene.
And besides that minor glitch, did this video truly and accurately depict the scene that day?
Yes, it did.
This time I would have permission to play the video.
That's fine. You want it that dark? Does it matter?
That'd be fine.
Okay.
There is no sound to the video, is that correct?
That's correct. There's no sound.
starting to video the inside of the public this time?
Yeah, this is immediately inside the front door, to your left.
did that video station visit truly and accurately depict Papa Don's pub both inside and out, and going out on November 16th?
Yes, it did.
And before I get to showing you some of the items collected and the photographs, a couple of questions. First of all, as part of your experience in these type of cases, is it unusual that when you arrive on the scene and photograph and videotape that there's evidence of EMS, of paramedics, having been at the scene and treated some of the victims of the case?
Yes.
What type of things did we see in that video which were indicative of a paramedic being on the scene?
On placard 1, in addition to the fire shell casing, you've seen a latex glove. At placard number 5, I believe you've seen a pile of bandages. Also at 19, it was pretty obvious. There's a large piece of white cloth. Sometimes it's not EMS, sometimes it's people bring towels or people take tablecloths. They're trying to assist the victims. And those things are left.
There also appear to be some plastic or plastic bags.
That's correct. EMS says that they tear open the bags because they try to keep things sterile. So they'll leave what's called EMS debris behind.
Secondly, we've used some terminology already in regards to items that you collected, the casing. Obviously, people are familiar with the term bullet. There might be other terms as it pertains to those. What is the difference, first of all, between a casing and a bullet? And can you maybe explain how those type of items may be left at a scene after a gun is fired?
Okay, we've all seen a bullet before it's fired. Basically, you can use the word bullet can be used two ways to describe the whole unit, and also the slug that comes off. It's commonly referred to as struck by a bullet. Okay. When you have a bullet, you have, in this case, it'll be what they call a primer on the bullet. It's that little button on the bottom of the bullet, and what that is like a fuse or igniter to ignite the powder in the shell casing. And then on top of the shell casing, they crimp what is also the slug or the bullet. Now when that's in the chamber of the gun and that button or primer is struck by the hammer of the pistol, the powder is ignited and it separates the explosion inside the shell casing, the brass, or it's usually either brass or aluminum because of the tendencies of them to stretch and not shatter when the explosion of the powder occurs. It propels the bullet, or what we call the bullet or the slug, down the barrel of the gun. Now, in a revolver, the shell casings will stay inside the gun, and that's usually has the wheel, so you have to dump it. But in a semi-automatic and an automatic, they're ejected from the gun, and usually to the right. So it ejects the shell casing, and then the spring in the magazine brings up another round, and it's chambered.
So ultimately, when we talk about a bullet, it has two parts, the slug and the casing.
That's correct.
And when the gun is fired, the slug goes through the barrel, and the casing, if it's not a revolver, it's sent out the side.
It's ejected out of the port.
Now, in regards to when you come to these scenes and you find these casings, does that automatically tell you exactly where the gun was fired?
If I took a gun here and fired it, my casings were ejected to the right of me. And ejection, they can hit something and bounce. They're not all going to fall in the same spot, but they'll give me a general area. Like to the right of me, I'm at 4 or 5 feet, see a pile of what they call shell casings. Okay. Now, when they eject, sometimes they can land on me. They can land in, like I have cuff pants. If I have a hood on my coat, sometimes they pop up and land in the hood. And also many times when people are leaving a scene in panic, if they're on the ground, they'll roll if I kick them.
You indicated you took photographs at the scene, and would that include photographs of the outside area of Papa Don's?
That's correct. Photographs were taken, the outside and the interior.
And now hand you a stack of photographs, have you look at all of them together. They're marked States Exhibit 37A all the way through 37BB. And do you recognize those photographs?
Yes, these are photos of the scene that night.
And I'm going to put them on the docker camera on the television. If you prefer to stay in the seat or come over to the television, that will help you to identify and describe what you're looking at. In regard to States Exhibit 37A,
Okay, that would be the business sign on the front of Papa Don's, and in this case, that would be on the south, immediately on Martin Street side. Okay, near the entrance from the street to the parking lot.
Hold on one second. Can you just, Mr. Baumel, state the exhibit number?
37B, Your Honor. Can you tell us what we're looking at 37B?
We're looking at what we located as pylon 1, which was a pair of glasses on the sidewalk area.
And in regard to the diagram, can you point out to the jury where on the diagram?
Okay, if you look at this diagram, go to the far right-hand upper quadrant.
Grab that pointer, will you?
Okay, I can do that.
A pointer that's right on the table to your left.
Okay, where that cone is, cone number 1 is right here. This would be East Market Street. And in the parking lot, there's the sidewalk, and here's cone number 1 where the glasses are located.
States Exhibit 37C would be similar picture, the same item, is that correct?
That's correct, it's from a different angle. Sometimes different angles are a little clearer. In case of glasses, you can see the orientation.
37D.
Okay, we're looking into the parking lot, so you'd be standing, on the diagram, you'd be standing roughly here, looking north. Okay, again, it's a closer photo. You would be standing right in here. You can see a group of placards. That would be these. So you're standing roughly in this area, a little further down and looking north again.
F.
Okay, you would be looking west. You would be standing roughly here when you're looking, and these are the placards in the area. You can see, I believe, all 6 of them in that angle. So you're looking this direction.
37G.
Again, same area, different, slightly different angle, looking up in the same direction.
37H.
looking in the same direction, slightly different angle. We take multiple angle shots sometimes because in some photos, the evidence might not be clear in all, in this case. Definitely 7, which you don't see, is because there's a post here. So from those angles, you'll never see 7, because this is a post. But we try to get multiple angles, and other items become clearer than in the previous photos.
And you can see the front door, the entrance to the...
That's correct. And so you can see a little bit of the orientation. You can see the front door here. And you can actually see the post that's obstructing the view of 7 to your right.
37I.
Again, if you look at it in the same direction, you can see this pedestrian markings on the lines and all the previous photos too, to show that you're looking, standing roughly around here, looking west.
J.
Okay, now we're trying to get some medium or close-up photos of the items. So again, with the placard, you can actually see some of the items in one, which is right here. You see the medical glove. You also see the stomach shell casing. And 2, you see a baseball cap.
37K. A close-up of the medical glove and the shell casing.
That's correct. It's a tighter photo. It shows you a little clearer what is near placard 1. That's correct. Again, a photo of the casing and the glove position placard 1. And so again, a different angle. Sometimes when you're photographing shell casings, it's remarkable how they can blend in with the background. In this case, an asphalt parking lot. In the grassy area, it's even tougher sometimes. It falls straight up and you're looking basically down through multiple angles.
Chuck, is it fair to say that with limited information you have, that the philosophy is to take more pictures and gather more evidence regardless of the information you have?
Yes, it's always trying to err on the side of having more than having less.
37M.
Okay, that's the hat again, placard 2. It would be roughly this area right here.
And you don't know whose hat that is?
At the time, we didn't know.
37N.
Okay, that would be 3. That would be an unfired bullet. It's still intact. It still has a slug on it. It hasn't been struck. The primer hasn't been struck by a fire pin.
37O.
Okay, different view of the same.
That's the unfired.
The unfired round. That's correct. That's fine.
Placard
Placard
number
number 3.
37P.
It's number, I believe is a shell casing, fired.
4 was the little black.
Oh, I'm sorry, it was a little piece of black plastic. We were unsure what it was at the time, but we thought it might have been a follower. And what a follower is in a semi-auto, you have a spring in the gun magazine or the bullet magazine, but on top of that spring, so the bullets don't fall through the spring, they put a little piece of plastic, which is called a follower, or also another piece of plastic would be on the butt plate to hold the spring in. And at the time, we thought that was possible, a piece of gun from the magazine.
37Q.
Number 5 is right here, and there's some blood and bandages, and again, I refer to that as EMS debris that they leave behind when they take out their medical equipment and bandages and sterile items.
But the significance of that photograph and that placard was that there was blood in that area.
That's correct. Again, a different view, same item, 6.
And 37T, that's a close-up of that shell casing.
That's correct, 5 and 6, it's a close-up of that shell casing.
And this is the second shell casing we discussed? Is that correct?
That's correct.
37U,
Okay, 7, the diagram is right here, it's behind the brick pillar. It would be the northward brick pillar. The overall from here, this area, that wasn't visible because the pillar obstructed our view, but it's the stud shell casing also, number 7.
B,
And there's a close-up photo of, again, 5 and 7, the stud shell casing or fire shell casing.
37W,
Again, 5 and 7, and it's catching the light, it's a little clearer there.
shell casing right here.
Correct.
And that's the third one outside now that we've seen in the photograph?
That's correct. It's the third shell casing and one unfireable.
X.
Okay, we're looking, I believe, inside.
I think we're still outside.
Oh, yeah, right. I'm sorry. 5 and 8. Okay, here's a dumpster. So here's the entrance, and if we go south, there's the dumpster. And 5 and 8 is actually hanging on the edge of the dumpster, because if we actually put it closer to the gun, it would be inside the dumpster and it wouldn't be visible.
Because ultimately, placard 8 is there to signify what?
It's, in the pictures, it signifies where the gun is. And the reason it's on top of the dumpster is because if you took a picture and 8 was inside the dumpster, you wouldn't see it. So we're trying to show a relative view of where the dumpster is at, and then 8 denotes the fact that there's an item in there.
I'm sorry, we see a door in that picture, that would be the door to the kitchen, is that correct?
Yes, there's a door right here to the kitchen, so if you're in the building and you come out of the kitchen, the dumpster's to the right.
37Y is a close-up of the dumpster.
That's correct, it's a close-up view, and again, you see the placard on top of the dumpster.
37Z.
Okay, again, a little closer view of 8.
And then 37AA.
Okay, again, placard 8 is the dumpster. Now you're looking directly at the gun as we found it when we came upon it.
That is the best view. You take the photograph that you can best take without moving the gun at that point.
That's correct. The gun has been moved.
It appears that this would be the handle of the gun and the trigger of the gun. Is that?
That's correct. One of the gun is facing us.
And then 37BB.
Okay, I believe that's this vehicle here.
In sketch that's listed as a suspect's vehicle.
That's correct.
These photographs in the detective states exhibit 37A through 37BB, they truly and accurately depict the various scenes outside Papa Down's pub on November 16th.
Yes, I did.
Okay, have you seen them? Specifically then, the items that we've seen, were they collected?
That's correct. They were collected as evidence.
All right, before you start that, I'm just checking with my jury. How are you doing? Does anyone need a comfort break? Just keep going? Okay.
Judge, can we approach real quick in regards to the bills?
Okay.
All right, Detective, at this time, I'm going to have you various items that are contained in Akron Police Department evidence containers. First of all, State's Exhibit number 41.
I will tell you that Kelly has scissors if you need them, let her know.
Okay, this is a shell casing, 40 caliber. It's been fired. It's also recovered from what we pointed out was placard 1. It's labeled with the placard number 1. And that was a shell casing that you've seen in the photos labeled as placard 1.
So on the item itself, or the bag of the item, is all the description in regards to your name. In this name, the victim is listed as Justin Winebrenner in the description of the item.
That's correct.
And the placard 1 is also written on the back of the container.
That's correct.
As far as initials and dating, do you have any idea what the significance of those items might be?
Okay, those aren't my initials, but when things are sent to BCI, the technician who opens up the evidence, when they seal it, they sign their initials.
Is when you collected it back on November 16th?
Yes, it does.
Give you State's Exhibit 42, and if you need the signature, we'll have you open up this item.
Okay, this is the baseball cap in placard 2. Labeled as such, it was recovered in the area of placard 2. It's a Team Hoyt Racing with a camo back and a black bill, and this is the hat at placard 2, and also in the photos that you've seen placard number 2 next to.
Did you later learn that that was Officer Justin Winebrenner's hat?
Yes, I was told it was Justin Winebrenner's hat.
That appears to be substantially the same condition as when you last collected it.
Yes, it does.
I hand you now, Mr. Clark, for identification purposes, a State's Exhibit 43.
Okay, this is the live round, recovered in placard 3. It's labeled as such. And there's a BCI signature on it. And it was, again, like I said, found on the ground where placard 3 is, and the photos also.
We're kind of going in order here then.
That's correct. We did 1 the spent shell casing, we did 2 the baseball cap, we did 3 the recovered live round.
And this appears to be substantially the same condition as when you collected it.
Yes, it does.
State's Exhibit number 44.
Okay, this was number 4. This was the small piece of black plastic that was recovered there that we, at the time, thought was maybe a piece of a magazine, a gun magazine.
That appears to be in substantially the same condition.
Yes, it does.
State's Exhibit 45.
Okay, this is placard number 5. And these are, there was, in placard 5, as we recall, there was a EMS bandaging and miscellaneous debris. These were swabs here, but the blood on the ground was swabbed with like a Q-tip-like medical swabs that are sterile and placed in a box for testing. So if we have to try to determine whose blood it was, it's sent in for testing.
You're wearing gloves now. Do you also wear gloves during the collection of the evidence?
Yes, we do.
State's Exhibit 46.
Okay, this is labeled placard 6. This was up on number 6 towards the top near the sidewalk in front of the entrance. And this is a spent .40 caliber shell casing. And it's also the placard in the photos are resting near the item.
And that item is it substantially the same condition as when you collected it that day?
Yes, it is.
And State's Exhibit number 47.
Another .40 caliber fired shell casing, and it's labeled placard 7. It was picked up in the photos, and also in the diagram where placard 7 is placed, that's where this was recovered.
And that was placard 7 that was kind of behind the post there?
That's correct. It was behind the brick and mortar post there.
And now I'll hand you with the mark for identification purposes of State's Exhibit 48.
Okay, this was under placard 8. This is the gun that was recovered from that dumpster. And also in the box is a live round that was recovered in the chamber. When we recover the guns, we have to make it safe for transport because we don't want anybody down the line to accidentally shoot themselves. So we clear the gun. We normally drop the magazine. There's usually on the handle of the gun, there's usually a button to drop the magazine.
Let me interrupt you, Detective. So you can explain this with the gun. I'm going to give you the scissors, and you can cut the band and take the gun out of the box, if you would, please, to show the jury what you're talking about.
I might be able to leave it in the box.
You can take it out. I'll get it for you. First of all, let me ask you, when you collect this item, you saw it kind of there in the dumpster in an unusual position. Tell us how you collected it and what steps you take to preserve any potential evidence.
Okay, we put rubber gloves on. With safety being paramount, we have to make sure it's safe. We just can't leave it. We don't want to be passing a loaded gun around. If it's dropped or something, it may go off and then someone's injured or killed. So the first thing we do, trying to minimize any removal or damage or DNA evidence, or I don't want my DNA on it in addition to confuse matters. There's a little button in this particular that drops the magazine. I press that, but in this case there was no magazine. Okay, now sometimes in semi-autos, even though you take out the magazine, you can still have a chambered round. So the gun can still be lethal. So we want to make sure there's no round in the chamber. So what we have to do, in this case, you would have to slide it forward. We've already dropped it. There was no magazine to drop. So we press that button. There's no magazine. So we have to slide it forward, check the chamber to make sure there is not a round in there. This would be the barrel, and this is basically the chamber. So I open it up like this. You see there's no round. In this case, there was a round, a recovered round. It's still in the chamber, so it could possibly be fired. Still lethal. And we take that bullet out and tag it separately.
Once again, if you would, jury, where that chamber is that's visible right now.
Okay. Right in here. When I open that up, I have to open the gun like this to make it safe. And so basically, when you fire a round, that's when I was talking about ejecting. Most guns eject to the right. So if I fired this gun, my shell casings would be kicked to the right side of me. Then when it cycles, the magazine, which is spring-loaded, pushes another round and it slides forward and chambers the next round. Okay, in this case, it's a semi-auto. So as fast as I can pull the trigger, okay, that's how many rounds are going to be fired. If it was fully auto, I could hold the trigger down.
And then looking at that weapon, there appears to be kind of a spiral cord and an attachment on the front of the firearm.
Okay, this has a laser sight on it, and you, I don't know how this particular model works. Usually this is a pressure pad, and when I put my finger on that, another finger other than my trigger finger, it puts a red dot on my target, a red laser dot. So it's called, it's a laser sight. So I can, where that laser, that red dot is, theoretically, when I pull the trigger, that's where that bullet's going.
And the live round, what happened to the live round that you discovered in the chamber?
I tag it separately, and I can feel it.
It's in the back.
In the back, right.
And that was contained within the box, which is State's Exhibit 8.
That's correct.
And this would be then the second live round that you found outside. You found one.
That's correct. Number 3 on the chart was the live round, the first live round on scene. And this was the second one, was chambered in this gun.
And the State's Exhibit 8, which contains the .40 caliber firearm as well as the one live round in the chamber, are they in substantially the same condition as when you collected them from that dumpster on November 16th?
Just looking around here. That's correct. The chamber round is still on fire, it's still intact bullet. And it's similar in design to number 3.
Kind of place it back into the box. And lastly, in regards to outside items, I'll now hand you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 61.
Okay, one of our photos of the pylon and the pair of glasses. And we pointed out it was the neon orange pylon that we located near the sidewalk on the right quadrant. This is the first item that I walked up to and pointed out with the pointer. These are the pair of glasses that we recovered at that point.
And does it appear that that item was also submitted onto BCI for
yes,
analysis?
Here's the BCI label here. And it's been opened and initialized for the opening.
And that, does that appear to be in substantially the same condition?
I feel to be intact.
Judge, this might be a good time to break on the testimony.
All right. So what we're going to do now, ladies and gentlemen, we're not done with the detective. However, we're going to take our lunch break now because after lunch we have to do a witness by video conference. Someone who's out of state, the parties have agreed to allow us to do that. This court does not have that technology, but there are several other courtrooms that do, and so we're going to have you go ahead and take your lunch, reconvene back in the jury room at 1 o'clock, and then Shay will direct you down to the courtroom where we're going to hear that particular witness's testimony, okay? I'm going to remind you again about all the admonitions. You're not to discuss this case with anyone. You're not to permit anyone to discuss it with you or in your presence. You're not to investigate this case in any fashion. You're not to decide this case in any way. And all those other admonitions that I gave to you in writing are still in force related to having any contact with anyone about this case or viewing any media, okay? And so just turn those notepads over. Shay will collect those and have those for you downstairs in the other courtroom. and we're going to give you an hour for lunch. And just stay back in the jury room until she formally releases you. All rise. Go ahead.
Sorry about that. With the late start, messed up our schedule, so. Come back here at 2 o'clock.
And the 1 o'clock guy is yours, right?
Yeah, that's right. He's a bar teacher.